by Down to Earth Ministries. My name is Isaiah Pound. I'm going to be your host for today's episode of Renew, as we look into our series called More Like Jesus. It's one of our main series for the year, and it's actually our theme for the year at Down to Earth Ministries and the Renew podcast, More Like Jesus. We want to live and be more like Jesus every day as Christians, and there's some things that really we don't do like we should. And so we've got to change some things if we truly want to be more like Him. And today we're going to be looking at forgiving like Jesus. Luke chapter 23, verses 32 through 34 says this, "And there were also 2 other malefactors led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him and the malefactors, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots." Imagine that, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, being hung on a cross between 2 thieves, and all the torture and the pain that he suffered before even being crucified. Yet after all of that, he was able to just say, forgive them. For a normal person to go through this would seem like an impossible thing. I mean, imagine it. To take an innocent life is something that we consider to be the most unforgivable crime. But how much greater would it be to take the innocent life of the Son of God? Yet, the Son of God himself said, Father, forgive them. As he hung there dying through all the pain, suffering, torture, and ridicule that he suffered, he still said, forgive them. Forgiveness is really a pretty hard topic not to talk about, because we all know that we ought to forgive. But to do it is a completely different story. We know we should, but we often don't forgive like we ought to, like the example Jesus set for us. So how do we forgive like Jesus? Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 44 says this, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, and do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use and persecute you." I don't know about you, but it sounds an awful lot like Jesus and the stuff that he went through on the cross. And he said, pray for them, do good to those that hurt you. At this time, when Jesus said these words, the culture was against such an idea. The Romans, who ruled over most of the world at that time, worshipped revenge. They even had a god after it. And Jewish law was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But Jesus said, no. Be different. See, true forgiveness isn't just words that we say to each other, but the actions and the treatment that follows. It's easy to just say, I forgive you, but to actually do it is different. If we truly forgive, we'll be able to love those that hurt us, to do good to those that have wronged us, to pray for those who have treated us poorly. A heart of forgiveness forgets and moves forward with love. So did someone hurt you, devastate you, betray you? Love them. Treat them right. Pray for that person who lied about you, the boss who mistreated you, the parent who left you, the friend who let you down. Do good and pray for those who have hurt you. That's part of forgiveness. We also should forgive as we have been forgiven. Colossians 3:13 says, forbearing one another and forgiving one another, if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. It's been said that unforgiveness is like drinking a poison and hoping that the other person is the one to suffer and die. It doesn't work. It hurts you, not really the other person. But forgiveness, that can change the future. Forgiving someone won't change the past. It can't undo some of the hurt and some of the pain that happened, but it can change the future. When God forgave us, it didn't undo all that we did. All the sins that we committed that put Jesus on the cross, we still committed them. but it does make our future as if those things never happened. We may still bear scars of the past, but they don't hold us back once they've been forgiven by God. If God forgave our sins like we forgive others, yeah, they might be wiped clean, and we'd still be saved from when Jesus died on the cross for them. But if he was like us, he'd hold it against us. He'd look at us differently because we caused the death of the Son of God. He'd let us into heaven because he kind of had to, but he wouldn't be happy about it. He wouldn't hold the penalty against us, but he'd still treat us like a criminal. So I'm glad God doesn't forgive like we do, because we're forgiven completely, and that's how we ought to forgive others, even as God has forgiven us. So now it's forgotten. We're loved and we're cared for as if it never happened. The scars we bear may still be visible and affect our lives, but they'll never affect how God looks at us and cares for us. So if we're going to be more like Jesus, we've got to forgive like he does. Quit holding a grudge. Quit being unforgiving. Don't just forgive with words, but forgive in actions and in treatment and in love. To be more like Jesus, we've got to start forgiving like Jesus. That's all for this episode of Renew. Until next time, God bless.